Hi, this is Craig with theaffinitygame.com, the online adventure game where the objective is to help you make a friend in the real world. And at The Affinity, we promote real live human interaction as opposed to just being on social media sites and engaging in flame wars and watching cat videos all day long. And so one of the things that may happen when you start to interact with other people is that you may have feelings of anxiety. So I'd like to talk to you today about anxiety. This video was done in collaboration with Dr. Terry Krakovich. And Dr. Terry is a PhD clinical psychologist. She is an expert in autism, as smart as the day is long, and as nice as she could be. And in addition to that, she also has a website called autismqualityoflife.com, and she hosts a podcast of the same name, which can be found on that website or on YouTube. You can also follow her on Facebook at Autism Quality of Life, and she's available on the Twitter machine using the handle at AutismQOL. Just couldn't recommend more strongly that you check that out because she has amazing guests and talks about a whole variety of issues and ideas related to autism, and it's really absolutely fabulous. What is anxiety? Anxiety is a feeling of worry, of nervousness or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Synonyms of anxiety are worry, concern, apprehension, uneasiness, and just plain old fear. Some of the symptoms are recurrent distress, knots or butterflies in your stomach, stomach aches, vomiting, headaches, sleep problems, and changing behavior to avoid situations. In many ways, anxiety operates like a monster that's kind of sneaking up behind you. It's also like the common cold in that almost everybody suffers from some form of anxiety. So it's extremely common, and I think in a way that's comforting. But then you have a sort of industrial grade variety of anxiety, and that's when you have a full-blown anxiety disorder. And I actually have one of those, and that disorder is called glossophobia. And glossophobia is a fear of public speaking. And even though I've spoken many times in public, it always elicits this response in me, and that is basically of a panic attack. And a panic attack has symptoms of a pounding heart and sweating, weakness, dizziness, and a fear that you're dying. Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to... And so whether you have just garden variety anxiety or industrial grade anxiety, we'd like to share with you the 5 tips for managing anxiety. Tip number 1 is breathe. And that sounds incredibly simple, but believe it or not, it's actually kind of complicated. And as it turns out, most people breathe the wrong way. And I couldn't recommend more highly a podcast from Rob Wolf and Dr. Belisa Vranich on the topic of breathing. And she's an expert into that. And they really go into detail about how people breathe wrong. So the first tip about managing anxiety is to start breathing correctly. And that means to breathe from your abdomen. And there's also a little technique that goes along with that that can help quell the symptoms of a panic attack. First, breathe in deeply for 5 seconds. And when you breathe in, you shouldn't be breathing from your chest, but breathe from your abdomen. Make it feel like you're very chubby and that your stomach is sticking out. So you do that for 5 seconds, then you pause for 2 seconds, and then you exhale for 5 seconds. Much more slowly than you would usually do, and then you pause again for 2 seconds, and you go through that cycle. And one of the things that can happen in a panic attack when your heart is beating quickly, you tend to breathe very shallowly, and this technique will help to stop that in its tracks. And even if you're not having a panic attack, breathing correctly in this manner will help to manage your anxiety. Number 2 is prepare. And that means You need to prepare your mind for potentially stressful events, unusual situations that are coming up. And if you prepare your mind properly, you can really reduce those feelings of anxiety. So what you want to be doing is rehearse the situation in your mind. And one of the things to be aware of is that most of us have these very negative thoughts that are running through our heads. And that's often called rumination, where you have a bad thought that just keeps running over and over again. And you're imagining these terrible scenarios that are going to happen, that you're going to embarrass yourself, you're going to say the wrong thing, whatever it may be. So the first thing is to be aware of these negative thoughts and really start replacing them with positive self-talk. Be very kind to yourself, be compassionate, have a positive self-image, and then begin to imagine this scenario playing out in your mind with a very positive outcome. And that can be extremely helpful. As a matter of fact, it's probably helpful to schedule time in order to do that. And it might be once or twice a day where you get your worries out, you replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, and then you can go forward with confidence that you're going to have that situation handled. Number 3 is cope. And that is just to come up with techniques that help you cope with anxiety and help you to feel better. And some suggestions are arts. If you're good at drawing or painting, that can be very relaxing. If you're a musician, you can play music or you can just listen to music, and that can be very helpful. You might want to get a massage. Some people like to use a fidget spinner. Or you can do something as simple as watching a TV show, especially a funny one, and just laughing can make you feel better. Number 4, care for your body and mind. Understand that your physiological state actually impacts your mood, and there's things that you can do to change that will lift your mood. So exercise is one of those things. I find yoga to be particularly helpful. Many people love to ride a bike, go swimming. There's other things that you can do, but exercising in general will help to reduce your anxiety. Nutrition. Don't spend the entire day eating junk food. Sleep. Getting enough sleep is very important for managing your mood and reducing your anxiety. Spend time outside. And one of the things about spending time outside is not only does it reduce your anxiety, but it can actually help you sleep better at night. If you're using any sort of stimulants like coffee, that may be really fueling your anxiety. And you may want to reduce or eliminate your coffee consumption in order to manage your anxiety. And finally, number 5, interact with other people on a social basis. It's really helped to draw upon your social support system. And you may find that other people have suffered the same anxieties that you are having over these particular situations. And that will be comforting, just knowing that they've gone through it. And they may also be able to provide some very helpful tips for you to manage anxiety. In general, it's very helpful to know that you're not going through this alone. So those are the 5 tips for managing anxiety. Number 1 is breathe. Number 2 is prepare. Number 3 is cope. Number 4 is care for your mind and body. And number 5 is to interact. If you think I've left anything out or I've got anything wrong, just leave a note in our comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. This is Craig from theaffinitygame.com.